So I met a lot of you last night, and I came to talk about the perfect light. And what I heard last night from all of you is just how important you think light is. And I do too. It's all I've ever done. You guys are thinking about so many things. Security, shades, you know it better than I do. And I realized last night you guys are the cool kids because you make the projects happen. The lighting designers love you and hate you probably at the same time because maybe they feel a little threatened that you have knowledge that they don't have, but they're also grateful for everything that you do to pull it all together. So I came to talk about the perfect light, which is really more about circadian lighting, wellness, because I see that as the future of lighting. It's where it's going. How many of you have your cell phone with night shift? All of you, yes. Many, not all. Okay. So that's sort of the first attempt to bring circadian lighting to our lives. And I heard this morning that Google's actually saying, put your phones down. Put your phones down. So we realize that we're addicted to phones, screens, all screens. And that has changed our lives. So the cell phone's attempt at night shift is circadian lighting. What it's doing is giving you warm light at night so that you go to sleep, and cool light in the day. And that's what we need to talk about. The other thing that's happening is that the intensity is changing. It gets brighter with blue light and dimmer with warm light. That is what it's all about. So I'm going to look at my phones because those are my little notes and change just a few slides. The other way. So you may have seen this sort of diagram before, but it's illustrating daylight over time, daylight over the course of the day. It's changing. It's changing in intensity, and it's changing in color, just like that app we talked about. That is circadian lighting. That is the very best form of circadian lighting. If you can be outside all day, every day, you will be extremely healthy, because you will be sleep-in trained. You need your blue light in the morning. You need to get outside, you need to walk your dog. Those that have dogs are healthier. They are sleep-in trained because it puts them in phase for the next day. So get out every morning, 30 to 60 minutes, as early as you can, getting that blue light, no glasses, no shades, no hat, just let that light reach your eye. We learned in the 1990s that we have new cells in our eyes. For move over rods and cones, they help you see. The new cells that we learned about are not about seeing. They're about absorbing light, sending signals to the brain, and the brain is telling the body what to do. So those new cells are called iPRGC cells, intrinsic photoretinal ganglion cells. And they basically absorb that light, the cool light and the warm light. The cool light is saying cortisol, stress hormone, get up, do it. It's allowed to release in your body when you're getting that blue light. No blue light, warm light, it's the opposite, it's your melatonin. So it's basically the trigger for your hormones. And this is what your clients need to understand. And this is your value add. This is how you're coming to the scene. Because you guys are super technical. You guys know how to get it all done. So if you can offer a service called circadian lighting to your clients, they're gonna nod their heads. They're gonna say, okay, I see I might need that. I see the benefit. But you're gonna have to talk a little bit more about it because it costs more. But it is gonna separate you from everybody else. Everybody else you're competing with. If you really get a handle on this, and there's tons and tons and tons of research, you will do very well with this. It's very simple. I'm gonna go through the basics. But this is what you wanna teach your clients. You want them to understand that your body is a perfect timepiece. There is a time for everything. And if you have a peek up here, you'll see your best cardiovascular time, 5 p.m. Your best coordination, your golf game, your tennis match, 2:30 in the afternoon. Your alertness, 10 a.m. So that's when you want your important meeting. That's when you want your job interview, Kathleen. That's when you want these things to happen. So your body needs to be sleep-in trained so that these things can happen. If they're not, you feel like you're basically kind of drugged and out of it and jet lagged because your body's not properly producing the hormone at the right time. And you're going to get these slides. Anybody want to debate any of this? How many of you sleep 8 hours a night? Raise your hands and look around at everybody. 8 hours a night. Does anybody sleep more than 8 hours a night? How about less than 5? Oh, buddy. I saw that back there. Angie. So that actually increases your mortality rate by 15%. That's really bad news. That's something we want to work on. So one of our big problems are these screens. These screens are so close to our eye, giving blue light to our brains, keeping us awake. And it builds over time. We have light history. So basically, the amount of light that you get during the day, if you had tons of daylight and you're doing a little bit of this at night, you're fine. If you had no daylight, you're one of those people like me that lives in the Northeast. You get up, it's dark out, right? Right, PA? Right, New York? You get out, it's completely dark out. You sit at your desk, and your desk is not next to the window. Because if you're within 10 feet of a window, that's good news. You're actually getting the benefit of circadian from the sun. If you're on the inside of the core, and you're far away from the window, and you eat your lunch at your desk, and then you go home that night, and it's dark again because it's winter, and the sun set at 4, and you leave work at 6, or 8, or 10, you've got a problem. You've had no daylight. So what do? We spend 92% of our time indoors now. So we are kind of in trouble. So this circadian lighting has now said, okay, we get it, you guys aren't going outside. Playtime's over, we're all about work. What do? We use electric light to simulate daylight, and that's how we're going to reset the clock. So here's your eye, here's your visual system. I'm going to hit this quickly for you. That's the iPRGC cells that I told you about that live in the back of the eye. They're starving for daylight. They're starving for blue light as long as you want to be productive, all day long. 2 hours before bedtime, that's a magic number. Stop the blue light. Dim the lights, go to a warm color. So what I'm actually starting to describe to you for interior lighting is tunable white light. Getting the right light, bless you, getting the right light at the right time of day, the right quantity of light at the right duration, how long you get it. Those factors go into play. So when you have tunable white light, all these guys like Google and Microsoft, we've done tons of jobs. I could tell you about those. Everybody's a believer. Those clients are going to roll into their homes and say, uh-oh, I need this at home too, and they're going to hit you with it. So what you want to do is basically get that blue light all day, and then 2 hours before bedtime, turn the lights down. No blue light. None. You need to have, the spectrum is 460 to 480 nanometers of blue light. That is what triggers those iPRGC cells. And then again at night, turn that off. 2 hours before bedtime. Have I said that enough? You guys getting that? Otherwise, you're not going to suppress your melatonin. You will not fall asleep. It's just a direct relationship. So this is, go ahead. Sure.
How does TV play into that?
That's a great question. So I went to RPI. Let me explain this going backwards a little bit. Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute has something called the Lighting Research Center. They are probably one of the most knowledgeable on all of this. And if you go to their website, they have tons of white papers. So I went there for a training about 2.5 years ago. And they gave us little meters, and then we learned how to do calculations. TVs do not impact your sleep. Guess why? They tend to be further away. The phone is right here, and it's getting right to that eye. Question? No?
So you shouldn't be reading or sitting on
your tablets. You know, you see those little glowy screens lighting people's faces at night? That's horrible. Your phone should be turned off. No light in the bedroom is the best. Absolutely none. If you need to get up in the middle of the night, have a warm, low light level if you can, like close to the ground, not hitting your eyes, or just dimmed very low light to navigate through space to get you to the bathroom or the kitchen or wherever. But no blue light at all. I'm a firefighter, and I got some light bulbs from our friends at Savant, and we have programmed a couple of different scenes in there. What we've learned through the Lighting Research Center is that you can turn on red light, just not blue, you can turn on red light and it actually gives you a boost of energy instead of a cup of coffee. So a lot of companies like Google are creating red light rooms to boost people up and give them an energy boost without suppressing their melatonin. So back to that SCN, suprachiasmatic nucleus. Basically, the iPRGC cells send signals to the suprachiasmatic nucleus that tell your body what to do, right? This is going to get a little heavy, and we are going to skip some of it because I want to talk about what's important to you, because I heard a lot last night, and it's basically, okay, great, got it, we get it, we understand light's important, how do we do it? So we're going to get there. So, but this is important. What do you get here? The CDC has determined that we've got a big problem. We have a public health epidemic. What's happening here is that people are gaining weight because they're not sleeping properly and they're not releasing the right hormones, and they're sending signals to their growth hormone. We have more kids on growth hormone than ever before. We have a lot of challenges. Diabetes, type 2, increased rates of cancer. There's a ton of research on this. Apparently, if we are sleep deprived, our cancer cells are growing. So it's one of these crazy things. Another one, Alzheimer's. The Lighting Research Center has also done a lot of research on Alzheimer's, actually received a bunch of grants. And what they have learned is that what's happening with Alzheimer's is that their sleep is completely thrown off. And so they are basically not sleeping, therefore their brains are not flushing. When we sleep, our brains flush toxins. So if we're not flushing the toxins, it's building plaque on the brain. That's Alzheimer's disease. So they have done an enormous amount of research on the brain and how to get these people to sleep. Because their phase shift is so off, they are not sleep-in trained. So they ask them to sit at a table, because a lot of times you'll see in nursing homes and assisted living, they'll wheel people outside. That is brilliant. You want anybody and everybody to go outside, but if they can't, for one reason or another, immobile perhaps, they have asked them to be next to a TV screen that is about 7 feet by 4 feet and have their cup of coffee. And they're right next to, and I think it was Samsung donated the screen for the research, and there's a white paper if you want it, I think it's on our website, or Lighting Research Center's website. And basically what they're telling them to do is sit at this table and have their coffee every single morning. And what they're doing is taking their biomarkers. They're testing their blood, their urine, their heart rate, to see and their cortisol level and their melatonin level, to see what's going on. And what they have learned is that if they can keep them doing this every single morning, consistency, like we heard this morning, consistency, every single morning, have their coffee at the blue light table, they are actually falling asleep at the right time. The other benefit to that, they're less agitated. The other benefit to that, they are more social. So there are many, many things coming out of this research. And the Lighting Research Center, upstate New York, at Troy, New York, has done a lot of great work with that. So I mentioned before what is circadian lighting and what was happening with your cell phone. It's the spectrum, it's the color of light. Specifically, it's that 460 to 480 nanometers of short wavelength blue light. Its intensity, you need a lot of light. The sun, if you put your light meter next to the sun, a window, I should say, next to the sun, you're going to register 400, 500, 600 foot candles, depending at the time of day and the solar angle. So we're never going to get that much light in an interior. That's just too much. And we have energy codes. So 40, 50, 60 foot candles, that's great. If you can get that, that's great. Not all day, but just for a certain amount of time. And again, in the morning and during peak productive times. Timing, like I said before, in the morning, you need that blue light. It triggers for the next day. Duration, how long you sit under or outside under the blue light. So if you're walking that dog, 30 to 60 minutes, excellent. If you don't have a dog, borrow your friend's dog. Go to a shelter. Light history, like I said before, what happens to your, what happens to you during the day with light will help you fall asleep at night. And less impact from the screen if you've had a ton of daylight. Alrighty, so this is CS. This is a metric that, again, sorry to keep mentioning their name, Lighting Research Center has developed to measure circadian lighting. You can actually download it for free on their website, absolutely free. It's called Circadian Stimulus, and you will plug in your lighting space with your light fixtures, and you plug in your fixture, and it will tell you what your CS value is. All that you need to know to suppress melatonin during the day, which is what you want to do, is you need that scale to be between 0.3 and 0.7. then you are actually suppressing melatonin. All right, rethink light. Questions?
Let's give Anna a hand.
Thanks, guys. I had more, but how much time do we have? Do we have more time, or are we done?
Go ahead.
There were a couple other things I wanted to share with you. Oh, yeah.
Charlie.
Yes. Okay. So that's an interesting thing that we can actually start to control a little bit. If you know that you're traveling to a time shift location, you can actually, there's a little calculator for it if you want to geek out, you can actually start to phase shift towards that location's time. Meaning, wake up a little bit earlier, 10 to 15 minutes, or go to bed a little bit earlier, depending on which way you're going. It's a real thing. Jet lag's a problem. It takes a couple days to get rid of. The best way to do it is try and sleep a little bit towards where you're going. And if you're only going to be in, say, California for a day, stay on your original time clock if you can.
So just to make that more precise.
Sure.
Japan.
That's a big one. So it's pretty much impossible unless you start phase shifting, 2 weeks ahead of time, 15 minutes each day to make that happen.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can make it a little better, but it won't go away. Go ahead.
And do you have some good recommended reading? Not
do.
deep, like I don't need to understand the
Yeah.
science of it, but just more high level.
Absolutely.
Lifestyle impacts and that sort of thing.
Not to be all self-promoting, however, on USAI Lighting's website, so if you Google circadian lighting, we come to the top. I mean, Amazon gets to go first every time, right? But we're right up there at the top. And if you go to our website and you go to research, we have white papers under circadian lighting. It's a good place to start, and take my card, take my email, and I'll send you a bunch of stuff. 2 articles just came out yesterday on the topic. There's a lot.
Are lighting designers really catching on to this?
Yes.
Or are they
Their
still
clients,
off the table?
they're skeptical. Lighting designers are skeptical of it. We have now many applications that we can talk about, but we've been out there since 2015 with our product called Color Select, which lives at the LRC. It's done all the testing. We know it suppresses the melatonin. It's got a good CS value. It's taken a while for the lighting designers to buy in. The owners are picking it, or the clients like the Googles are saying, okay, here's what we want to do. Snap, we want our employees to work longer and to have less sick days and to be happier. And CBRE just did a big research on the fact that if you follow circadian lighting program, the employees were 50% happier. I can give you all the stats for it. They like their job more. They quit less, back to Kathleen. Their job retention was longer and less sick days. So Google said, okay, great, I love that research. He's gonna have to kick me off the stage. I told you once you get me started, it's a problem. Let's see, Google now gives warm light for about a half an hour from 8 to 8:30, and it's not super warm light, it's about 3,500 Kelvin. Then they ramp up to 6,000 Kelvin from 8 until 6:30 at night, and they bring it back down at 6:30 to end of time at 2,700. What they just did is increase their workday, because those employees are a lot more productive. There's tons of research saying that if you get your blue light and you're working under it, you are more productive, you make less mistakes. Again, LRC gave people something to read, a bunch of students, and said, read this under this light, read this under this light, and answer these 3 questions. They did better under the blue light. So go ahead. Were there any more questions?
I don't know.
Down the back, go ahead.
We should, okay,
Sorry.
go quick, Mary.
It's okay. We got all the time we need. For a home or an office? Let's do a home. Okay, what would help your home with lighting? Okay, well, of course I'm going to say team up with USAI and Savant because we've got a super collaborated system. But that aside, I would say work with LED lighting, tunable lighting, if you can. There's lots of different options. You can go to the Apple store and pick up light bulbs. Savant has light bulbs. You can go, and that's probably the most affordable screw and economic solution. You definitely need a control system. So the two things you want to put into play are 2 different Kelvin temperatures, as cool as you can possibly get it, up to about 6,000, and somewhere lower than that, 2,700 would be good. So you want 2 different optical, so you could have table lamps that are 2,700, warm light. And then you could take your ceiling light and make that a little cooler, and have it on at various times on a control system so that you walk into the room and based on the time of day, you switch night lighting versus day lighting. Work lighting or productive lighting, rest lighting, whatever you want to call it. So I would say just basically separate Kelvin temperatures, color of light, and have it all on dimming.
Great.
Awesome.
All right,
Thanks,
let's
guys.
give Ann one more hand.